We have a potential tropical cyclone developing in the Northwest Caribbean Sea. Hey everybody, Mike Naso here with this evening update on June 2nd, the second day of the Atlantic hurricane season, and you can see we do have a potential tropical cyclone developing right along the north coast there of the Yucatan Peninsula. Now, what is a potential tropical cyclone? It means we don't have a tropical depression or a storm yet, but it's so certain to become one that we need to issue watches and warnings, and therefore we need advisories. So, as of right now, we have advisories being issued on a system that is almost a tropical depression. Now, here's the latest from the National Hurricane Center as of 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. The system was at about 21.4 north, 87.5 west, winds of 35. So it's got tropical depression strength, almost a tropical storm. It just doesn't have a clear-cut low-level center, and if there is one, it's kind of over land here over the Yucatan. Nevertheless, it's drifting to the north at 5, and it's about 1,003 millibar barometric pressure. So what that means is that once it moves offshore, it should become a tropical depression, then a tropical storm, and then make landfall sometime probably Saturday in western Florida. However, it could be to the north of this cone or to the south. Nevertheless, the impacts will probably be the same, and we could have center reformations. I'll tell you about that in a second. Now, we do have tropical storm watches out. We have a tropical storm watch for the west coast of Florida, south of the middle of Longboat Key, and from the east coast of Florida, south of the Volusia-Brevard County line. Now, that includes the Florida Keys, the Dry Tortugas, Lake Okeechobee, Florida Bay. We also have a tropical storm watch here in western Cuba for the Cuban provinces of Matanzas, Mayabec, Havana, Artisma, Pinar del Rio, and the Isle of Youth. So, western Cuba, western Florida, eastern Florida, under tropical storm watches with the expectation of tropical storm force conditions moving in their area over the next couple of days. So here's the visible satellite imagery. Now, the center, based on what we think from the Air Force and from the Hurricane Center, is right about in here. This spin where I just circled, look at that spin right on the northeast tip of the Yucatan near Cancun, Cozumel, this area here. It's very ill-defined, and it is possible that with a developing system, a new center could reform. So if it reforms here over western Cuba or down here south of Cuba, that will make a difference in the track, because there's a difference between going here extrapolated out northeast and developing here and extrapolated out northeast. That's hundreds of miles difference. Nevertheless, most of the weather is on the right side. It's very sheared. It's got southwesterly shear, which I'll show you in a second, and that is keeping most of the heavy thunderstorms off on the northwest side. Nevertheless, the northeast side rather. Nevertheless, that northwesterly and westerly shear from the southwest here is blowing right across the center, firing thunderstorms, so it's kind of keeping the thing alive and keeping it over that very hot water. Here's the infrared satellite imagery. Notice the lightning strikes out here. Very dangerous, treacherous water south of Cuba, and the Isle of Youth right in here. And you can see western Cuba, areas like Havana, areas like the Isle of Youth. You guys are getting hammered with thunderstorms and rainfall. And again, the center of the system, whatever center there is probably right about in there where I circled. So this is definitely an ill-defined, lopsided storm. If the center of the system was right in this blob, we would be talking about a much stronger tropical cyclone. Now, looking at the spaghetti model plots, they're all pretty straightforward. It's going to get caught up in the westerlies and move to the northeast. However, it's going to cut right across Florida. And so if you're in Florida, what can you expect? Rainfall. This is the GFS 18Z, and you can see it drenches South Florida with rain starting tonight as the system's outer bands affect all the way into Saturday and maybe even Sunday. So sadly, this isn't going to move as quickly as I thought originally, so that could prolong the heavy rain threat and the potential for flooding. Thankfully, the winds won't get too strong. You can see very high shear tendencies here, and that's why the system's not able to strengthen. You can see that even better on this map. The center of the system appears to be right in here, right? Boom, you've got wind shear coming from the southwest, shredding it, 30 knots of it. If the center was down here, it would have pretty good outflow and a good environment. So let's be thankful that the system isn't down here where it could get stronger. Right now it looks like waters are warm, but that wind shear and even some dry air might inhibit significant strengthening. Certainly don't think it'll become a hurricane. Now, as far as the winds, tropical storm force, the earliest arrival would be tomorrow night, maybe around midnight, 11 o'clock, Friday night, Saturday morning. That would be the likeliest, earliest for southwest Florida. But again, this is a relatively broad map. I mean, we're talking anywhere from St. Petersburg all the way through the Keys and the East Coast. So on Saturday, a good swath of Florida could get affected by not just heavy rains, but also tropical storm force winds. Storm surge, it's not going to be a hurricane and it won't be a strong tropical storm. Nevertheless, we could have water rises 1 to 2 feet from Longboat Key down to Marco, and then Marco all the way down through the Keys here in areas of Goodland, Cape Sable, the Everglades. You guys could have water rises of 1 to 3 feet and 1 to 2 feet here in the Keys south of Interstate 1. US 1 rather, not Interstate 1, Highway 1. Anyway, look at the rainfall here. This is the main threat with this system, and the slower a system moves, the higher the rate of rain. They are expecting 6 to 10 inches to drench areas there of South Florida. So if you are in Naples, Key West, Homestead, you guys are going to get in on some of the heaviest rain. But again, depending on where the center comes, the rain is lopsided. So if the center were here, you'd probably get rain further north. If the center moves further south, this may have to be adjusted based on any center reformations. You can see the radar right now out of Tampa. Pretty good storms around the Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda area. Kind of that summertime hot weather starting to take place. Winter Haven, you've got some around you, as well as Tampa, some of those afternoon storms popping up there. But we don't have anything extremely wet yet, but it's coming. So the key messages with this potential tropical cyclone, number one, heavy rain. It's going to continue Friday across the Yucatan, the Caymans, western Cuba. Life-threatening flash flooding and mudslides across western Cuba. And number two, that's going to begin to affect South Florida and the Keys tomorrow through Saturday. And considerable flash and urban flooding is possible across the urban corridors of South Florida and the Keys. And then finally, number three, those tropical storm force conditions possible in western Cuba tomorrow and tomorrow night, and in Florida and the Florida Keys Friday night and Saturday. So again, we're going to watch this very, very carefully. You can see how it's progressed there on this beautiful water vapor imagery. It's definitely a factor. I mean, it's a system for sure, but it's not a well-defined circulation yet, and that is why it does not have a name. Of course, if it does get a name, it will be named Alex. So we're going to watch this over the next couple of days as it moves on up towards western Cuba and Florida. Nevertheless, the impact should be the same. Heavy rainfall, gusty winds, and we're going to continue to watch it very carefully. I'm Mike Naso with the latest on potential tropical cyclone number one. Stay tuned for further updates as the system organizes in the Northwest Caribbean and the Southeast Gulf of Mexico.